The story of Tamar is one of the most intriguing and complex narratives in the Bible, found in Genesis 38. Tamar's story intertwines themes of justice, deception, and redemption, offering insight into the cultural and familial practices of ancient Israel. Tamar was a Canaanite woman who became part of the lineage of Israel, and her story also holds significance as she is one of the few women mentioned in the genealogy of Jesus Christ in Matthew 1. Here's the full account of Tamar's story. Background: Judah and his family. Tamar's story begins in the context of the family of Judah, one of the 12 sons of Jacob, Israel. Judah was one of the key figures in the betrayal and sale of his younger brother Joseph into slavery, which is a major narrative in the chapters preceding Tamar's story. After the sale of Joseph, Judah left his brothers and settled in a place called Adullam. There, he married a Canaanite woman, the daughter of Shua, and had 3 sons, Onan, and Shelah. When Judah's firstborn, came of age, Judah found him a wife. This woman was Tamar. Tamar's first husband, Genesis 38, 6-7. Judah arranged the marriage between Tamar and his firstborn son. However, the Bible tells us that was wicked in the eyes of the Lord, though it does not specify the exact nature of his wickedness. As a result, God struck her dead, leaving Tamar a widow. Genesis 38, 7. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death. The custom of levirate marriage, Genesis 38, 8-10. In the ancient Near Eastern world, there was a practice known as levirate marriage, from the Latin word levir, meaning brother-in-law. According to this custom, if a man died without having children, his brother was supposed to marry the widow and have children in the name of the deceased brother. These children would then carry on the deceased's family line and inherit his property. After death, Judah instructed his second son, Onan, to fulfill this duty and marry Tamar in order to produce offspring for his deceased brother. Genesis 38, 8. Then Judah said to Onan, "Sleep with your brother's wife, and fulfill your duty to her as a brother-in-law to raise up offspring for your brother." Onan, however, was unwilling to produce offspring for his brother because it meant that the inheritance would go to the child born from this union rather than to his own descendants. To avoid this, Onan practiced a form of birth control, ensuring that Tamar would not conceive. Genesis 38, 9. But Onan knew that the child would not be his, so whenever he slept with his brother's wife, he spilled his semen on the ground to keep from providing offspring for his brother. This act was considered wicked in God's sight, and as a result, God struck Onan dead as well. Tamar left in limbo, Genesis 38, 11. Now twice widowed and childless, Tamar was left in a difficult position. Judah, fearing that his third son, Shelah, might also die if he married Tamar, hesitated to give Shelah to her in marriage. Instead, Judah told Tamar to return to her father's house and wait until Shelah grew up, implying that once Shelah was of age, he would marry her. However, Judah had no intention of giving Shelah to Tamar, believing her to be cursed or bad luck because of the deaths of his 2 sons. Genesis 38, 11. Judah then said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, "Live as a widow in your father's household until my son Shelah grows up," for he thought, "He may die too, just like his brothers." So Tamar went to live in her father's household. Tamar remained in her father's house, but as time passed and Shelah grew up, it became clear that Judah was not going to fulfill his promise. Tamar's bold deception, Genesis 38, 12-23. When Tamar realized that Judah had no intention of giving her to Shelah, she took matters into her own hands. She devised a bold plan to secure justice for herself and fulfill her duty to produce an heir for her deceased husbands. After Judah's wife died, he mourned for a time and then went to Timnah to oversee the shearing of his sheep. Tamar heard about Judah's plans and decided to act. She disguised herself as a prostitute by covering her face with a veil, and sat at a place called Enaim, which was on the road to Timnah, knowing that Judah would pass by. When Judah saw her, he did not recognize her as his daughter-in-law and approached her, asking to sleep with her. Tamar agreed but asked for a pledge since he had no payment at the moment. Judah offered her his seal, cord, and staff as a pledge until he could send her a young goat as payment. These items were personal identifiers, much like a signature, and would later play a key role in the story. Genesis 38, 18. he said. "What pledge should I give you?" "Your seal and its cord, and the staff in your hand," she answered. So he gave them to her, and slept with her, and she became pregnant by him. Afterward, Judah sent his friend to deliver the promised goat and retrieve his pledge, but the friend could not find the woman. The people in the area told him that no prostitute had been there. Judah, embarrassed, decided to drop the matter to avoid public shame. Tamar's vindication, Genesis 38, 20-26. A few months later, news reached Judah that Tamar was pregnant. Since Tamar was still technically bound to Judah's family and his son Shelah, her pregnancy outside of marriage was considered a serious offense. Judah, still unaware of his own involvement, ordered that she be brought out and burned to death. Genesis 38, 24. About 3 months later, Judah was told, "Your daughter-in-law Tamar is guilty of prostitution, and as a result, she is now pregnant." Judah said, "Bring her out and have her burned to death." However, Tamar had kept Judah's personal items, the seal, cord, and staff. As she was being brought out for punishment, she sent a message to Judah, revealing that the father of her child was the man to whom these items belonged. Genesis 38, 25. As she was being brought out, she sent a message to her father-in-law. "I am pregnant by the man who owns these," she said. And she added, "See if you recognize whose seal and cord and staff these are." When Judah saw the items, he immediately recognized them as his own and understood what had happened. He acknowledged Tamar's righteousness in the situation, and admitted his own failure to fulfill his duty by not giving her to Shelah in marriage. Genesis 38, 26. Judah recognized them, and said, "She is more righteous than I, since I wouldn't give her to my son Shelah." And he did not sleep with her again. 7. The birth of Perez and Zerah. Genesis 38, 27-30. Tamar gave birth to twins, whom she named Perez and Zerah. During the birth, Zerah's hand emerged first, and a scarlet thread was tied around it to mark the firstborn. However, Zerah's hand was drawn back, and Perez came out first instead, becoming the older of the two. Genesis 38, 29. But when he drew back his hand, his brother came out, and she said, "So this is how you have broken out." And he was named Perez. Perez became an important figure in the lineage of Israel. Notably, he is listed in the genealogy of Jesus Christ in Matthew 1, 3, showing that despite the unconventional circumstances of his birth, he was part of the messianic line. Legacy of Tamar. Tamar's actions, though unconventional and bold, were ultimately vindicated. She secured her place in Judah's family, and ensured the continuation of her deceased husband's line. Tamar is one of the few women mentioned in the genealogy of Jesus, showing how God used her story, despite its complications, as part of his divine plan. Tamar's story highlights themes of justice, persistence, and the importance of familial duty in the ancient world. It also underscores the ways in which God can work through complex and even morally ambiguous situations to bring about his purposes. In the end, Tamar's determination and righteousness changed the course of Judah's family, and paved the way for the eventual coming of the Messiah through her offspring. After the birth of Perez and Zerah, the Bible does not provide further details about what happened to Tamar or Judah regarding their personal relationship. Here's what we can infer from the biblical narrative. After Tamar's vindication, when Judah acknowledged that she was more righteous than he was, it marked a turning point in their relationship. The Bible explicitly states that Judah did not sleep with her again, Genesis 38, 26, indicating that their union was a one-time event, solely for the purpose of ensuring Tamar's right to bear children for Judah's family line. Tamar had fulfilled her purpose by bearing Perez and Zerah, thus securing her place and legacy within Judah's lineage. After this, her role in the story concludes, and there is no further mention of her in the narrative. Judah's personal transformation seems to continue after the events with Tamar. In the subsequent chapters of Genesis, Judah plays a much more positive and redemptive role in the story of Joseph and his brothers. By the time of Joseph's rise to power in Egypt, Judah is portrayed as a more responsible and honorable character, even offering himself as a substitute for Benjamin when Joseph tests the brothers' loyalty. Genesis 44, 18-34. This suggests that the episode with Tamar had a significant impact on Judah's moral character and sense of responsibility. Tamar's story concludes with the birth of her twin sons, Perez and Zerah, who carry on Judah's family line. Notably, Perez becomes an important ancestor of King David, and, eventually, of Jesus Christ. Tamar is one of only 5 women mentioned in the genealogy of Jesus, in the New Testament, Matthew 1:3, emphasizing her significance in the divine plan of redemption. Her actions, though unconventional, were recognized as just and righteous, and she is honored in biblical history for her role in preserving Judah's lineage. Perez, the son of Tamar and Judah, became a key figure in Israel's history. His descendants include prominent biblical figures such as Boaz, the husband of Ruth, and, ultimately, King David. Perez's lineage culminates in the birth of Jesus Christ, placing Tamar in the line of the Messiah. While the Bible does not detail Tamar and Judah's lives after the birth of the twins, their story leaves a lasting legacy. Tamar's boldness and Judah's eventual acknowledgement of her righteousness result in the continuation of the messianic line. Tamar disappears from the narrative after the birth of her sons, but her place in biblical history remains significant, as her actions ensured the survival and flourishing of Judah's line. Zerah, one of the twin sons born to Tamar and Judah, does not have much written about him after his birth. In Genesis 38, we learn that he was almost the firstborn, but his twin brother Perez emerged first, which resulted in Perez receiving the rights and status of the firstborn. Here's what the Bible tells us about Zerah and what happened to him. Birth of Zerah, Genesis 38:27-30. During Tamar's labor, Zerah's hand came out first, and the midwife tied a scarlet thread around his wrist, marking him as the first to appear. However, Zerah drew his hand back, and his brother Perez was born first. Afterward, Zerah was born, but his brother Perez had already claimed the position of the firstborn. Genesis 38:29-30. But when he drew back his hand, his brother came out, and she said, "So this is how you have broken out." And he was named Perez. Then his brother, who had the scarlet thread on his wrist, came out, and he was named Zerah. Although Zerah himself does not play a major role in the biblical narrative, his descendants, known as the Zerahites, are mentioned later in Scripture. Zerah became the head of one of the clans of the tribe of Judah. Numbers 26:20. In the genealogies of Israel, the descendants of Zerah are listed as part of the tribe of Judah. The descendants of Judah, by their clans were, through Perez, the Perezite clan; through Zerah, the Zerahite clan. The notable descendant of Zerah, Achan, Joshua 7. One of Zerah's descendants, Achan, is a key figure in the book of Joshua. Achan, the son of Carmi, a descendant of Zerah, disobeyed God's command during the conquest of Jericho by stealing items that were to be devoted to God. His disobedience led to Israel's defeat at the Battle of Ai. Joshua 7:1. But the Israelites were unfaithful in regard to the devoted things. Achan, son of Carmi, the son of Zimri, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, took some of them. So the Lord's anger burned against Israel. Because of Achan's sin, he and his entire family were punished and put to death. But this incident stands as the most significant mention of Zerah's descendants in the Bible. In 1 Chronicles 2:6, Zerah's descendants are mentioned again. He had 5 notable sons: Zimri, Ethan, Heman, Calcol, and Darda. These men were known for their wisdom, particularly Ethan, whose wisdom was later compared to that of King Solomon. 1 Chronicles 2:6. The sons of Zerah: Zimri, Ethan, Heman, Calcol, and Darda, 5 in all. This reference shows that Zerah's descendants were recognized for their prominence and wisdom within Israel's history, while Perez, his twin brother, became a significant figure in the messianic lineage, with his descendants leading to King David and ultimately Jesus. Zerah's line does not have the same distinction in terms of biblical prominence. Zerah's role in the genealogies is more as the head of one of Judah's clans, and his line continued to be part of the tribe of Judah. While Zerah is not as prominent as his brother Perez, his line is noted in the genealogical records of Israel. His descendants, the Zerahites, are mentioned a few times throughout the Bible, with some of them, such as Achan and the sons mentioned in Chronicles, playing notable roles. However, the primary focus of Judah's lineage in biblical history remains on Perez, the firstborn, whose line leads to King David and Jesus. Perez, the twin brother of Zerah and son of Judah and Tamar, is a significant figure in the Bible, primarily due to his role in the lineage of King David and Jesus Christ. While his personal life is not heavily detailed, Perez descendants play a crucial role in Israel's history. Here's what we know about Perez and his importance. Birth of Perez, Genesis 38, 27-30. Perez's birth is recorded in Genesis 38. His mother, Tamar, gave birth to twins after her unusual and scandalous encounter with Judah. During childbirth, Zerah's hand came out first, and the midwife tied a scarlet thread around it. But Zerah's hand withdrew, and Perez was born first. Genesis 38:29. But as he drew back his hand, his brother came out, and she said, "What a breach you have made for yourself." Therefore his name was called Perez. Perez's name means breach or breakthrough, symbolizing his unexpected emergence ahead of his brother, which gave him the rights of the firstborn. Perez is a central figure in the genealogical history of Israel, because his descendants include some of the most prominent figures in Jewish history. Perez's lineage is mentioned in several genealogical records in the Bible. He became the ancestor of Boaz, the husband of Ruth, and, eventually, King David. Ruth 4:18-22. This, then, is the family line of Perez. Perez was the father of Hezron, Hezron the father of Ram, Ram the father of Amminadab, Amminadab the father of Nahshon, Nahshon the father of Salmon, Salmon the father of Boaz, Boaz the father of Obed, Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of David. This genealogy is significant because it connects Perez to David, Israel's greatest king, who was anointed by God to establish a royal dynasty. David's line is also the messianic line, which would eventually lead to Jesus. In the New Testament, Perez is included in the genealogy of Jesus Christ. The genealogy in Matthew 1:16 traces Jesus' lineage through David, back to Abraham, and Perez is highlighted as part of this important family tree. Matthew 1:3, Judah, the father of Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar, Perez, the father of Hezron. This demonstrates that Perez played a pivotal role in the divine plan of redemption, as his lineage ultimately led to the birth of the Messiah. Perez's descendants, known as the Perezites, became an important family within the tribe of Judah. In the book of Numbers, during the census of Israel in the wilderness, the Perezites are listed as one of the largest clans within Judah, reflecting Perez's prominence. Numbers 26:20-21. The descendants of Judah, by their clans were, through Perez, the Perezite clan, through Hezron, the Hezronite clan. The Perezites' large numbers showed how influential and significant Perez's line became within Israel. While the Bible does not provide many personal details about Perez, his descendants were central to the future of Israel. From Perez's line came leaders, judges, and kings. Most importantly, the royal lineage of David and the messianic hope of Israel was traced through him. In later Jewish tradition, Perez's line was seen as carrying the blessing of Judah's tribe, because Judah was prophesied to have a special role in leadership and kingship. Genesis 49:8-10. Perez's descendants, as the primary branch of Judah's family, inherited this blessing. Judah's line was destined for greatness, and Perez's position as the firstborn solidified his role in fulfilling this prophecy. Perez holds a special place in biblical history, not just as the son of Judah and Tamar, but as the forefather of King David and Jesus Christ. His descendants would go on to lead Israel, fulfilling God's promises to Judah. Though Perez himself does not have many stories associated with him, his legacy is one of great importance in the unfolding of God's plan for Israel and for humanity. Through Perez, the royal line of David emerged, and ultimately, the Messiah, Jesus, came to bring redemption to the world. May your spiritual journey be filled with God's grace and peace. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to inspire others on their walk with the Lord.